haven't been here for a while. Our ordinance, so we have a 4-minute time period, you come up to the podium, and, you can speak, I'll just read this out of the agenda. Be advised per statute 1984-2, information may be received from the public. Comments are limited to a 4-minute time period per person. Please be advised that there may be limited discussion on the information received, however, no action will be taken on the public comments. So, we have a timer, so use for a timer.
That's Simon, W 1969 East Little Road. Just a few comments regarding the noise ordinance, ideas, suggestions. First, to me, after reading it, it would make sense to make this a 24-hour ordinance, because anything can happen in between at any time. That would be one item. An exception to potentially consider home backup generators, because they can be noisy. And people only use those when you have outage, and it would be kind of bad if people are all of a sudden calling on people trying to keep their refrigerators going. After reading it, to me anyway, just reading it, it seems to be unenforceable as it stands. I think you have to consider having an EV level. Most people, if the police show up, I'm sure are gonna be courteous and say, okay, I get it. What are you gonna do when somebody doesn't get it? You have to be able to have something measurable, quantitative to help your case. The other thing is, since we have, lakes here, it would be nice to have a little more definition, or to be more inclusive, because I see that you repeat the words residence, alley, road. It'd be nice to repeat the word watercraft in there as well. And the last item that, to me, unless there's some other way to address this, but I don't see anything that addresses fines. So what happens if somebody violates? What happens? Thank you.
Next.
Okay. Mary Jo, what's your address? At 933 East Manor Drive.
Thank you.
I would like to share my thoughts regarding agenda item 9C, discussion regarding a refundable deposit and checklist for town hall usage. I don't know where the discussion will lead tonight because there's nothing in the packet for guidance, so I'm just going to share my comments. I had sent an email to the board and the clerk about a week ago, and I heard nothing back, so again, this is why I'm speaking tonight. The first thing is, I'd like to understand, and this is just, you don't have to answer to me, rhetorical, is the rollout of the policy, when and how will the town formally communicate this new policy to the residents? Will this policy be handled the same way for all community organizations and individual citizens that want to use the hall? The deposit, I'm asking for flexibility on paying by check, cash, or credit card. And for those who use the meeting room multiple times during the year, would it be able to leave a deposit check on file? The checklist agreement, will this form be available on the website, and can it be submitted by email? The refundable deposit, what is the expected turnaround time from the town to process the refund, granted that all checklist items were followed correctly? Please consider a refund mailed back to the person within 3 to 5 business days. Enforcement, I know the town isn't here after business hours, after 5 and weekends when most meetings occur here. So who would be monitoring and verifying that checklist items are followed correctly? And how will you validate if something occurred that was improper? Are you gonna take photos or?
We have a camera right there.
Okay, so there's a camera, okay.
And in the hallway.
Handling the violations, is it full forfeiture, partial forfeiture? For example, somebody leaves a water bottle, but the next group leaves 10 pieces of trash. One chair is moved and not put back, one chair is broken. I think there's different levels. The door's not locked. In exchange, I'd like assurance from the town that the reserved rooms are accessible in a timely manner. And what I'm referring to is the town hall, building doors in the meeting rooms being unlocked at least 15 minutes prior to the meeting time. I personally stood outside more than my 10 fingers waiting for someone to unlock the door. And I think that this is gonna create more administrative work and inconvenience on both sides. Perhaps a signed and dated checklist is a good first step for communicating the town's expectation, but I think we need to reevaluate a refundable deposit and look on it on an individual basis rather than an entire town's community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rice?
Bob Rice, W84 Shorewood Drive. This is the first time that I've ever heard of a mill rate being different within the town. I thought a mill rate was the same throughout the town.
Because there's different
Never
school
has been,
districts.
never been, has been here in the town of East Troy, sorry.
I think we all get the same services, and if someone's gonna pay a higher mill rate, what additional services are they getting for that additional mill rate? If we are paying a higher percentage because we live on the lake, there's several neighbors of mine who are seasonal, who complain all the time about the school referendums and things, saying they've never sent any of their children to a school. They're paying double, they're paying in Illinois, and they're paying in Wisconsin. They're actually using less of the services for a lot of the lake residents. I think it should be even across the board.
State law, and the mill rates are different because we have 3 different school districts. We have 2 lake districts, we have a sanitary district. You're paying for what your area, why should I, who live on that end of town, pay for Connors Lake maintenance?
You know, I get a sanitary district bill, I pay quarterly,
Right, so your mill rate's different than hers.
but I pay that, that's outside my taxes.
No, it's part of your taxes.
We pay taxes, we
With
pay
sewer.
usage fees. We have 6 different mill rates, we've always had 6 different mill rates.
Depends on which school you're in, district you're in, that's the one thing that changes.
What are the different school districts?
So, I mean, can I-
Wanna go Burlington, East Troy,
yeah,
other school.
so I live in the East Troy School District, my tax dollars do not go to Mukwonago, they don't go to Burlington. Now, if I lived at the end of Miller Road, I'm in the Burlington School District, my school district taxes go to Burlington School District.
But the base rate, the town tax, that is,
The same over the entire portion of the town.
So the town tax is the same throughout?
Yes, the town portion is the same.
It's the schools.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying
when you
that.
look at the tax bill, there'll be the line items.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Town,
clarifying.
we all pay the same county portion, we all pay the same town portion, and then it just breaks down.
The
Okay.
school districts, lake districts.
Okay, public comments?
Under, my name is Kenzeth, Bellevue Road, under 9C unfinished business, I support lowering the speed limit on Bellevue Road. The portion, only the portion of Bellevue Road that was designated a rustic road. I see you have Dover Mill listed, it's already 35, that doesn't need to be included. That's the end of my, comment. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
what's your house number?
West Line Lane,
Thank you.
you want.
We actually will have a discussion on all of that. Kid's not gonna miss any of these. Public comment? Oh, you're
Tell me to wait. I need to do extra time.
No, so you still start on the. Okay.
I had two things I wanted to try and cover tonight. One was town financial reports, and you guys have already discussed that. I appreciate the consideration, I look forward to seeing them, so thank you. The second was ordinances, just somewhat in general and somewhat specific. It's my expectation that updating an old ordinance or creating a new ordinance would occur when you are trying to solve a specific issue or shortfall. Secondly, justification for new provisions would be heavily documented, which would include provable demonstration of reasonable effort trying to rectify that issue without an ordinance. What that threshold should be to justify an ordinance, I really can't quantify myself, or it needs to be explainable to residents at least. I know from past police reports, Chief Gurecki has indicated our noise ordinance did not have any enforceable teeth to be able to hold anybody accountable. So I assume there is quite a bit of documented history justifying the update of this ordinance. However, adding subjectivity to the ordinance accomplishes nothing more than the original ordinance. I built automation for manufacturing facilities in my career. We were required by law to keep noise levels down below 85 dB. Otherwise, you need hearing protection, and that's an OSHA requirement. I don't know if OSHA establishes anything on this, but the first draft of the ordinance that I read applied the chief's discretion, which is very subjective. I don't know how you enforce that. I don't know how you can stand up in a court of law. And the draft in tonight's packet states noise plainly audible at the property line between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., which I still think is quite subjective. I don't know. I'm not quite sure that passes the hurdle for objectivity. For this ordinance, I'm suggesting some objectivity to the ordinance. Add something quantifiable that people can understand and get behind. In the case of the container ordinance, Joe, I did not understand the history provided on page 47 in the packet as evidence requiring the need for the ordinance. And maybe that wasn't what it was intended to do, I don't know. I also don't understand why specifically the county identified it, or what the 22 petitioners were referencing. Can any 22 town residents sign a vague petition to get a new ordinance established? Are the residents who sign the petition grouped in some geographic subset of the town with a specific concern which was not stated in the petition? Are they speaking to a specific residence? How many complaints has the chief had on this issue? I have no idea what will be discussed tonight on this. I guess it's in February or whatever. But I came prepared thinking it was going to be discussed tonight. But this has the potential to establish a very dangerous precedent, especially if it doesn't have specific reasons for invoking it. And I think anything that you do needs to be understood by all residents on new ordinances. I mean, I've had on my street, I had a dumpster, from John's, sitting there for probably 3 years. It just moved this year, it was gone. I know the next door neighbor was having trouble with it, but, so I think dumpsters or certain things might be valid. I'm not sure of containers, I just don't know how that applies. But anyway, that's my thoughts on both of those. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I'm gonna leave your batteries on you pretty soon. Other comments? Mr. Stowe?
So I'm gonna give my opinion here,
John, what's the house number?
NAV 31 Stearns Road. I'm gonna give my opinion here, and I'm gonna address the board tonight, and some things have changed since you pushed this back, but I'm still gonna top of my original speech. I'm addressing the board tonight to express my deepest concerns for the overreach I've witnessed by this board in recent past. I see the portable container as just a continuation of Chairman Karkowski's personal quest to control and dominate this town. To my knowledge, this ordinance was communicated to the town of East Troy constituents via the online meeting packets only, and the packet was only posted 3 days prior to the actual Monday night's meeting. 3 days to review 4 updated ordinances with only the weekend to perform any investigation to inform themselves what happened to the 90 to 120 days like we get at the county. I asked Attorney Mills and Chief Gorecki if they were in any way responsible for initiating this ordinance, and they told me no. Why do we need a portable ordinance container, which is far more restrictive than Walworth County, which is already on the books and has been in place for several years? My conclusion is this ordinance is the latest in a long string of actions initiated by Chairman Karkowski to reduce openness and transparency to town residents, which includes limiting official town storage requirements of town meetings, videos to 30 days, disbanding the communications committee, reducing public comments to 1 opportunity, etc. And now a portable container ordinance. What's next? If this action is allowed to go unchallenged, the citizens of this town will be subject to mounting onerous regulations with very little to say or ability to resist them. I'm asking for the board members to publicly let your vote be known whether you support the increase of unnecessary regulations on the citizenry of the town of East Troy, and I implore each of you to please honor your oath of office by representing the people of our town instead of standing by while Chairman Karkowski continues to exert his control and vision over our town. I'm going to state my opinion regarding what's going on at the town and the town board. I will compliment the town and I will speak my opinion on the truth at what is going on within the town board. I would like to compliment the police department. Our new police chief, Gorecki, is doing a very good job and is reflected in the officers that patrol our streets. We are not experiencing the negative citizen police interactions we had with our previous chief. The town's DPW, being led by Todd Shields, is doing a great job of keeping our roads clear and our storm damaged streets after tree damage cleared. Did you know, less than 6 months ago, Bill Wuscher, a town board supervisor and a member of the Town of East Troy Planning Commission, did this. Supervisor Wuscher went to a meeting at Walworth County where Michael Cotter was in attendance. When the meeting was over, Supervisor Wuscher approached Michael Cotter and quote, "How do we rezone Double D's property into residential? This is called the downzoning. It's called the taking. If the property would get rezoned to residential, the property would lose value because B3 zoning is worth more money than residential. I will be addressing this in the spring when Supervisor Wuscher is up for re-election." Did you know this proposed shipping container ordinance is a continuation of the former police chief's actions? Did you know this, that the future police chiefs wrote Carla and Georgie and me, John Stowe's 27 tickets over a 2-year period? In conclusion, I know some have Stoss derangement syndrome. However, I will continue, I will not stop fighting for the citizens of the town of East Troy.
No.
You have to know my address, Kim. I have enough, North 8590 Stringers Bridge Road. And my time now? Oh, good. I don't have 4 minutes, so it's not that long. I would like to address my concerns with the new proposed container ordinance. There is no comprehensive procedure to put a proposed ordinance into law for the town of East Troy, and we just showed that we need one, because it was done, in my opinion, haphazardly, which got everybody up in arms. So if there is a set written procedure on how to take an ordinance and put it into law, we wouldn't be in this situation. There are other municipalities that do have comprehensive procedures for ordinances to be put into law. Example, of course, is Walworth County. They have a 90 to 120 day procedure. With an ordinance that can affect every property owner, this should not have been done so haphazardly. The container ordinance idea was started 2 years ago by a John and Carla Hay campaign during the town election. The list of petitioners have myself I have vetted. It seems a very problematic list. Double signatures, names that do not go with the addresses that were given, poor penmanship, you couldn't read the signatures.
2 years old.
They live on what I could tell with the addresses, they live on small properties that wouldn't even need or wouldn't even be able to have a container. I have followed Nextdoor Neighbor, the app, which I hope you're all on, or follow this or read this. I have also done Informed Citizens on Facebook, and all are against the container ordinance. They do not want more government. Because of the lack of a comprehensive procedure to place an ordinance into law, there's no time for due diligence, and again, you've all brought that up. You're looking for, we should have more citizen input and the time to do it. The new written ordinance, in my opinion, is lacking in important considerations. For example, land size. What about the farmers? What about people on 5 to 6 acres? One shoe doesn't fit all, and it's just a blanket ordinance that affects everybody with any size of property. This new proposed ordinance, in my opinion, will open up a can of worms. I drove around the town of East Troy and found over 10 large 40-foot containers. The new ordinance only allows 20 feet. Who is going to check to see if they have county permits? Do we really want our police force to be burdened with container issues? In closing, I want to thank Supervisor Wales, again, because this was just kind of like, oh, let's do this. He at least shelved it, and Michelle approved that. Otherwise, it would have been voted on with really no due diligence, because I recall most of you, and you all agreed that you did not have time to look at and do any kind of due diligence on this matter. I would like to propose that since we're tabling this until February, why don't we put it up on a referendum in April and let the majority vote on it, not just a small group of people with an agenda like that original petition. Let the people vote, not just a small group of people. We have a county that has trained zoning officers. I hope the board votes no when you get it to vote on, and let the county do the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, this is the first right of that ordinance, and that's how it is when you have a new ordinance. The first right is the first shot at it.
But
You're done. In regards to how we got it tabled, Chad Wales made a motion, and the board unanimously said yes.
and that's fine, and I understand.
But you did
that.
waive the first
I
reading
understand
last
that,
month.
But there's nothing in writing. There's nothing in writing. Why don't we have anything in writing on if we're going to do something like this and then
There'll be a
follow
different
it?
discussion.
And then follow it, thank you. That's the point.
No, but I do think perhaps the board could consider a, written procedure for new ordinances.
Yes,
I think that's a good idea.
yes, that's the point.
Okay, yes, please.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make one more comment regarding, Mr. Rice's comments about mill rates. I wanted to point out that there is no way that someone who lives near my subdivision is paying for Lake Beulah taxes, and there's no way that someone who lives on Lake Beulah is paying for Potter's Lake taxes. There's been some misinformation out here that the entire town pays towards Lake Beulah, and they do not.
All right. Let's call for public comments on everything. Everybody wants to talk? Anybody else? Going once? Twice? Okay. Okay, moving on.